Well, you survived the nervous system. After that, this is going to feel like a breeze. So now we're going to move into the endocrine system, which is your other control system that works with the nervous system to regulate different processes in the body. Where the nervous system does things very quickly in the moment and then the reaction is over, the endocrine system takes its time and has to release hormones. Those have to travel through the bloodstream to target cells. Those hormones continue to stimulate cell activity until the hormones are removed from the body, and its effects last longer because of that. Let's do a quick tour of this module. By now, you should be familiar with going to the Content tab to find your module information. You're going to go down to the Endocrine module, and then you'll see now we only have 2 folders again. There's a Resources folder, which always has your outcomes and objectives, those short answer questions that you now know are definitely going to show up in some form, maybe not exactly like they're written here, but they'll help you think about the material in a different way and how to apply it. Then you have your discussion board where you can share with your classmates. Make sure that you're getting in there and checking each other's questions, seeing if you can answer them or posing some questions of your own. This is a place for you guys to communicate with each other. Think of it almost like a chat room to discuss what's going on in the module. At the end of the semester, I'm going to take a look at your participation over the course of the semester, and that will count as one 10-point discussion assignment. You need to participate in at least 5 Q&A discussion boards by the end of the semester to earn full credit. Then we have some PowerPoint slides if you find those helpful. Then we get into our to-do folder. Here are the items that are going to be required that are due in this module. There are 2 virtual labs, one on the thyroid and one on pancreatic function. There's a required discussion board on endocrine system disorders. Then there are 2 Connect assignments, one on the endocrine system and one specifically on disorders. Then you will take your test. In the endocrine system, there is a lot of memorization. You have the structures that are producing the hormones that they make, and then how those hormones trigger actions on those target cells. As you're studying the endocrine system, it's helpful to keep a list and break it down by those glands, and I'll talk to you more about that in the lecture videos, and give you some tips on how to make a matching game that you can play to help reinforce these different hormones and their actions. You're watching the Start Here video right now. Then we need to get into the endocrine system. There's an endocrine signaling worksheet here that will help you to summarize a lot of what I'm going to talk about in this lecture video. I recommend printing this off or downloading it. You'll see that there are just 3 tables here to help you organize this information, and oddly enough, the way it's organized also seems to lend itself very well to short answer questions, like comparing and contrasting the nervous and the endocrine system, comparing and contrasting protein versus steroid hormones, or discussing the different ways that you signal hormone release. So use this worksheet as you're going through this lecture video here. I start off with a general one by Crash Course to get you started, and then some information that's important about hormone cascades. Don't forget when you go into YouTube, if somebody's talking too fast, like Hank Green, you can go to that little gear button down there on the screen, click on that, and adjust the playback speed. I find that a 0.75 playback speed works really well for Hank Green. It slows him down just a little bit so you can follow along. If you're rewatching or re-listening to a video as a review, you could always try speeding it up to 1.25 because you don't necessarily need to be taking notes the second time that you're listening to something. Then we're going to get into the specific glands. I've broken the lectures down by the glands that are producing the various hormones. The pituitary gland is designated as the master gland because it makes a lot of hormones and because the hormones that it makes tend to regulate the release of other hormones. So the pituitary gland is going to get its own video. Let's take a quick look at that webpage. Now the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus are closely linked together, and I'll get into that more in the lecture videos. There's an endocrine gland hormone worksheet that I recommend you print or download. There are other hormones that we are not covering in this class, so this worksheet will help you focus in on the ones that we cover. As Grunkle Stan says in Gravity Falls,
"It all begins with this little fella, the pituitary gland. He may be little, but he has big plans."
It's a very important gland. So this video here is going to dive into the details of that gland and the hormones that it produces. Then we're going to move down the body and get into some other glands. Again, make sure you're using that worksheet. This is the same worksheet that you will have already printed off or downloaded, but I put it here just in case you haven't done that yet. This video will cover the thyroid gland, the parathyroid glands, which are located on the back side or posterior of the thyroid, the thymus, and the pancreas. After you've watched this video and practiced the material, then you'll go back to the to-do folder and do the required virtual labs. The labs will cover the thyroid and temperature as well as glucose regulation. Then we're going to finish off our glands and hormones with the kidneys, suprarenal glands, and the reproductive hormones. This is the summary worksheet again here. This video covers our kidney hormones. Again, make sure that you're reading the synopsis or tips for each video. You've got your suprarenal hormones. As I mentioned here, just think about these glands as focusing on stress. They're either going to deal with immediate stress, fight or flight response, or they're going to deal with long-term stress and trying to maintain the body and make sure that your electrolytes or your blood sugar levels aren't out of balance. Then we will end with the reproductive hormones, and I have some information here about that and about the effects on the body of both the reproductive hormones as well as other factors. We'll get into reproductive hormones here, and then we'll finish off those hormones there. I talk a little bit about comparing menopause changes and maternal changes during pregnancy. Then I have a section here that gives you some more information about the reproductive system and the effects of various changes on development of those different structures, depending on hormone levels within the body and differences between individuals. I think it's a really interesting topic and find all of the genetic and physiological differences between individuals fascinating and important for understanding someone's health care, and hopefully you'll find something interesting here as well. Once you've completed those videos, then you're going to complete your required discussion board on endocrine system disorders. Now this time I'm not giving you a list, but there are a lot of endocrine disorders out there to choose from. Make sure that before you post your discussion board on a particular topic, that you look at any that have already been posted. Feel free to call dibs on a particular disorder by putting your name and the name of that disorder in the thread title, and then make sure to go back in and edit that thread once you're ready to put in the details. The information that you must include is listed right here. Make sure that everything is written in your own words and that you're not just copying and pasting something from the internet, because I will be looking for that. This is part of the writing component of the course. Then you have an endocrine assignment and a disorder assignment on Connect. Here you'll find some tools to help you practice for the practical part of this test. Now the endocrine system does not have a big separate practical test like the nervous system or the skeletal system. There are just a few structures that you have to know. Those are the ones that are on the worksheet that you will be practicing. Here we have a diagram to help you just practice labeling those different structures within the body. Here is a video that walks you through finding those different endocrine structures and being able to identify those. So there will be a short portion of this test where you have to identify those different structures and spell their names correctly. Now it's important if you have two of something, like you have 2 testes, 2 ovaries, 2 kidneys, etc., that you specify whether you're looking at the right or the left. So make sure that you're practicing that as well. Then there's a practical PowerPoint here that you can download, and then I have that PowerPoint just as a handout if you want to use that. Here's a video that walks you through the endocrine structures that are found on the anatomy kit models that you have at home. Back in the to-do folder, there is a recommended SmartBook reading, an optional practice for the test, some Quizlets if you find those helpful, and then of course your Kahoot challenge. Don't skip the Kahoot challenge. I write those. They have questions that are very similar, if not identical, to some you might see on the test, and you can earn a bonus point if you score high enough. Don't forget that you can take it as many times as you want. Just make sure that your username that you put in is something that I can use to identify who you are. Then once you watch this video that you're watching right now, then your test will show up right below that Kahoot. This is a short module, but it's a really fascinating one, and it's extremely important because it regulates so much that happens in the body. As always, if you have any questions as you're working through the endocrine system, I will be happy to set up a time to chat where we can invite the class and join us for a Zoom session if you would like, or we can chat by email, whatever works better for your schedule.